I'm in Philadelphia, and every now and then we have the Philly Inquirer calling us to see if we'll sign up for their newspaper. We always hear that same monotonous sales pitch of someone obviously reading a script and trying to get me to buy a newspaper. There's no excitement, there's no conversation. It's just, I'm supposed to shut up and listen to the telemarketer tell me something. I have been hearing this same approach for the last 15 years, and I'm not trying to be negative about the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm just using them as an example. There are a number of other newspapers who do this too. However, you think about it from a business perspective, you're investing all this money, you have this cold calling campaign going in order to try and sell, what, $1 worth of newspapers a week? What is it? When you see the approach isn't working, why are you not taking steps in order to change your approach so you get the results you want? Likewise, as a salesperson, if you're engaging in a cold calling campaign and you see you're repeatedly getting nowhere, you're dealing with rejection, people are hanging up on you, people are barking at you for disturbing them during their workday, why? It's irrational to maintain the same approach and think you're going to get different results. In fact, that's the definition of insanity. So that level of expectation for success, it isn't just a matter of making you more confident. It's a matter of, if I'm going to engage in this activity, I'm going to do what's necessary to make sure I get the maximum benefit out of it. Don't go through the motions. Make sure whatever you do has purpose, is done with intent, and is going to actually realize some sort of positive result for you. Okay. Secondly, your fear of rejection creates call reluctance. When you engage prospects with a pitch that's designed to interest them, entice them, convince them, and persuade them to grant you an appointment, what you're usually doing is asking a string of questions that superficially examine a problem they're going through, but that are obviously leading to an appointment without first getting your prospects emotionally vested in meeting with you. Therefore, every question that you ask ends up increasing their sales resistance because you have your prospect focused on their problem only superficially, instead of having them focused on the ramifications and scope of their problem. Most prospects react to any traditional prospecting pitch in a skeptical or defensive manner. When you're focused on the problem itself, instead of on the ramifications of the problem, what you're doing is you're asking your prospect a series of closed-ended questions. Salespeople make the mistake all the time of opening with a closed-ended question such as, oh, we're calling to determine if you have a need for, usually resulting in the closed-ended response of, no, this isn't a good time. Or, I'd like to know if you had a minute to discuss. Again, what do you normally hear? It's no. Think about when you walk into a retail store to buy something and the salesperson will come to you and says, can I help you? 90% of the time you say, no. Even if they can help you, but fine. What you went out of your way today to buy, you still say no to that. We're simply conditioned to react that way. So as soon as the prospect hears your warm, excited, enthusiastic greeting, followed by a professional sales pitch, they end up shutting down. It's that automatic reaction. And such, what you need to do is throw them off their game. This is done through what's known as a strategic pattern interrupt. A strategic pattern interrupt is a method that was developed by a psychologist by the name of Dr. Milton Erickson. This man was highly influential in the development of neuro-linguistic programming, a methodology that's extensively used in numerous sales training programs and techniques. So even if you've never heard of NLP, odds are you are using it in some way, shape, or form. A pattern interrupt is designed to simply change the order or syntax of a person's pattern of thinking or standardized behavioral response to external stimuli. It's designed to confuse someone to the point that you break a habitual pattern of behavior, thought process, or communication style. When you effectively use a pattern interrupt, you will dramatically reduce the prospect's wall. Therefore, you'll be able to engage prospects who would otherwise be non-communicative with you, who are ordinarily too busy to talk to you, who are abrupt, sarcastic, or otherwise negative. All of these reactions cause most salespeople to feel rejected, and rejection creates future hesitation, resulting in a failure to maintain a cold calling consistency. There are two areas in your prospecting routine where effective use of a pattern interrupt is crucial to your success. Number one, when you need to get past the gatekeeper, and number two, when you initially engage with a prospect. Remember, all human beings love to be in control of something. We like to think we're responsible for our success, we're responsible for our futures, and so on. This desire for control is manifested in everything we do, and it's exhibited through our response to external stimuli. As such, both gatekeepers and prospects have a certain pattern, subconscious or the subconscious, that's followed when they deal with salespeople. Generally, they don't want to deal with salespeople because they don't want to be sold, they know less about what you're selling than you do, or they don't know or realize they have a problem or reason to speak with you. This strategic pattern interrupt allows you to suspend or otherwise disrupt the habitual response these people have developed over the years of dealing with cold callers. When you master this method with the gatekeeper, you'll get more opportunities to engage with prospects, and when you master this with prospects, you'll end up with a substantially higher possibility of them being more forthcoming with you, more willing to expose their problems to you, and as such, more emotionally engaged with you. Mastery of this skill is critical to your success in prospecting. Remember, we don't buy what we need, we buy what we want. Desire is a state of mind. That's why companies throw so much money at advertising. If you're here because you're not happy with the results you're getting from your prospecting efforts, I need you to change your minds. When you're open to a shift in mindset, you will change your method, you'll change your routine, and you'll change your habits, all of which will end up changing your outcome. Change is uncomfortable, I know that, but the ramifications associated with underperformance can be downright painful. So please, pay attention to what's coming up, be open-minded, participate in the questioning, participate in the exercises that come up. Someone just asked me what the name was of the man who developed the strategic pattern interrupt. His name is Milton Erickson. Okay, let's start with the gatekeeper pattern interrupt. Okay, gatekeepers have a pattern. Number one, they first want to identify you, and then they want to classify you into some category. They want to figure out, are you a client or prospect of the company? Are you a friend or family member of staff? Or are you a salesperson? Who's most valuable to let through for the gatekeeper? It's clients and prospects. Who do they need to keep out? Salespeople. So, step one of the strategic pattern interrupt is not to sound like a salesperson. Don't start your call with this overexcited, enthusiastic, hello, how are you? My name is, and isn't it a wonderful day today? You need to give the impression you fall under the client or prospect category. Clients and prospects have the negotiating power in the communication with the gatekeeper. They know they're valuable, they don't beg, nor are they reactive to menial questions posed by secretaries. So, sound like a professional, sound hurried, sound vaguely disinterested. Your tonality should carry a mild, prove-it-to-me approach mixed in with a little bit of confusion. Step two of the pattern interrupt is to throw the gatekeeper off their game. Remember what I just said about people wanting to be in control. When you're the enthusiastic salesperson, what's going on is you're challenging the gatekeeper's control. When you're confused and you need guidance, you're handing them apparent control, which they happily take from you. So, when the gatekeeper asks you what your call is in reference to, you need to throw them off their game. Respond with, yeah, I'm not sure yet. I have the same number on my desk. I'm simply responding to it. Is he in? Sound a little impatient, then immediately progress to step three, which is to put the gatekeeper in a defensive position. Jump in with, well, what does your company do? Maybe there's a reason he's trying to reach me, and I'm just not putting two and two together. Well, this tactic is a reversal of what most salespeople experience. In other words, most salespeople have questions regarding who they are, what they do, and they find themselves in a box where they simply react to the demands and conditions of the gatekeeper. The pattern interrupt is a proactive tactic that's designed to put the gatekeeper in a defensive position so she pushes you through. If the gatekeeper, when you ask the gatekeeper what the company does and she simply responds with the company name, you need to inquire further. You need to get them to tell you what the company or department does, and then simply respond with, oh, okay, that makes sense now, you can put me through. Don't go into overdrive. That usually ends up raising their suspicion. The final statement of you can put me through now is the final component of the pattern interrupt. The gatekeeper is used to salespeople trying to get through, not people who are hesitant about getting through. Finally, don't lie. Don't say he called, you're returning his call, and so on. First of all, you don't know how they deal with incoming leads. Secondly, ambiguity is one thing, misrepresentation is usually another, and it's not the best way to start your business relationship with them. So, the 3 steps of the gatekeeper pattern interrupt are, number 1, don't sound like a salesperson. Don't have that confident, jacked up tonality that is just like waving a banner saying, I'm trying to sell you something. Sound like a professional, sound vaguely disinterested, sound hurried. Secondly, throw the gatekeeper off their game. Finally, put the gatekeeper in a defensive position. There are a few things that salespeople do here where they don't get the results they deserve and they end up in a sparring match with the gatekeeper. It's usually when they're rude or overly aggressive. Think about it. If you came back from lunch, your assistant was gone, your support staff was out to lunch, and you found a name on your desk, and you didn't know who it was, but you feel you have to return the call. Think about how you'd behave when you return the call, how you'd communicate. You'd return the call just in case the person was a prospect or a referral, but you'd be cautious because you too don't want to deal with a salesperson. You would be rude or obnoxious because if the person was a prospect, you don't want to alienate them. But you also wouldn't be overly accommodating just in case it was a salesperson. Your focus when returning this call would be to discover which category the call fell into. So assume the communication style and tonality that's consistent with this objective. The second place they go wrong is they're overly rehearsed with the technique. It ends up throwing the timing off and it throws your tonality off, and you end up sounding more confident than you should be considering what you're saying. That ends up making you sound like you're going through it. It ends up making your requests sound like impatience as opposed to confusion. Finally, move it along. Don't get into a debate with the gatekeeper. If you find yourself consistently, when trying to put the gatekeeper in a defensive position, having the gatekeeper come back, you need to examine your tonality and timing in order to shift the balance back to the gatekeeper. Where I've consistently seen people go wrong is that they were too slow with the pattern interrupt. Okay, does anyone have any questions on the gatekeeper pattern interrupt? One thing that I do want to point out as we go through this is a lot of the examples I use are not included in the PowerPoint. However, we do include it in the email with the PowerPoint, so you have that frame of reference when developing your own pitch. Okay, now we're going to go into the prospect pattern interrupt. Once you get to the prospect, you need to, again, go into pattern interrupt mode. Again, you don't want to sound like a salesperson. You're assuming the role of a person who's puzzled by a supposed name and number on the desk, and you want to figure out what's going on. Generally, when prospecting, the traditional salesperson begins by telling the prospect who they are and what they do. The focus, again, is on me, myself, and I. And the prospect expects this style and pattern of communication from the salesperson. So, you need to throw the prospect off his game. If you're calling Jim Jones, small business owner, and you finally get through, begin with something like, oh, hi, Jim, it's Maureen Daly. Give it a brief pause, like he knows exactly who you are and why you're calling, and then follow up with something along the lines of, does my name sound familiar?